Major changes are coming to MLB The Show 23. We learned a ton of information about the game in today's feature premiere. Let's start it off with what we learned about Diamond Dynasty. First off, yes, the Universal DH is finally coming to Diamond Dynasty. We all kind of knew this was going to happen. They usually emulate the rules that are happening in real life, and this is going to open up a whole new element of team building. A lot of cards just became a lot more usable. Next up, we have full two-way player functionality. You're going to be able to use guys like Shohei Ohtani just like they're actually used in real life. This is another feature that people really wanted to see. Kind of weird that it wasn't in the game last year when he was the cover athlete, but better late than never. And the last thing we learned about Diamond Dynasty today is that there is now going to be a ranked co-op mode. Co-op was added into the game last year, and they made it very clear at the beginning that they wanted to make sure the game mode worked and they wanted to iron out all the issues that it may have before they started implementing rewards. And I think that was a smart move because co-op did have quite a bit of issues. So as long as all of that is fixed, it's going to be a lot of fun to play ranked co-op. That's everything we really learned about Diamond Dynasty, but the tech test does go live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, and you should be able to play with all of these new features, so make sure you guys download it and get your hands on the game a little early. Next up, I didn't really expect this in the gameplay premiere, but we got some changes to quirks. As you guys know, every player in Diamond Dynasty has a quirks page on their card, and every player will have different quirks based off the type of player that they are. But some of these quirks were simply based off attribute thresholds. For example, the bomber quirk, which says a player excels at hitting home runs. As long as the player has his power attribute to a certain number, they just get that automatically. It doesn't actually change anything about the gameplay. Whereas a quirk like Night Player, which makes a player perform better when playing night games, actually has an impact on gameplay. But in MLB The Show 23, all passive quirks are now gone. So everything that did not have an impact on gameplay is just out of the game. So now when you actually look at the quirks, everything that you see will have an impact when you use that card on the field. Another big change they're making is they're completely redoing the clutch attribute. Instead of me explaining this change, I'm just gonna let the clip play from the stream so you hear it straight from the developers.
So in years past, contact and hits per 9 have kind of been battling with one another, but now with runners in scoring position, clutch is a direct replacement for contact, and pitching clutch is a direct replacement for hits per 9.
So let's say this again. Clutch is now swapping attributes. What happens when you're a pitcher now?
When you are pitching clutch replaces hits per 9 with runners in scoring position.
With runners in scoring position. That's massive. But it's also big on the hitting side. So as a batter with the runner in scoring position, what does clutch as an attribute do now?
Clutch now swaps in and replaces contact. So that new battle is that clutch versus pitcher clutch when there's runners in scoring position.
So you're getting two brand new contact ratings if there's somebody in scoring position if you're a hitter.
That's right, Ramon.
That's going to make the clutch attribute matter significantly more than it ever has in the past, and I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out. Now, moving over to actual on-the-field gameplay, they made some changes to fielding, specifically to the throwing meter. They've revamped this throwing meter to now change based off the difficulty of the throw. If it's going to be a more difficult throw, the green region is going to shift to the further end of the meter. So it's not always just going to be in the middle, and fielding and throwing is not going to be as automatic as we've played the past 5 years. I think this is a really good gameplay change. I never really worry about fielding and arm accuracy and stuff all that much because I trust my ability to hit the center green on basically any throw that I make. Now, in addition to fielding and reaction, I kind of have to keep those in the back of my mind because the throwing is going to be hopefully a little bit more of a challenge. Nobody likes making throwing errors, especially on an easy play, but this is going to provide a skill gap into online play that I'm really excited to see how it turns out. Now let's jump into everybody's favorite topic, hitting. What changes have they made to hitting for MLB The Show 23? Well, first off, they tried to redo the hitting feedback system a little bit. They now have the swing timing showing up on the left and then the PCI results showing on the right, because in MLB The Show, the most important part of your swing is the timing. That is priority number one, at least according to what they said in this gameplay feature premiere, and then it's PCI placement. They're trying to show you the timing and the plane of the swing and then the PCI to kind of get you that idea that this is what you should focus on first, and then it's the PCI. I think it's a good change, but at the end of the day, I still feel like the average player will get frustrated when they have a center cut PCI swing that doesn't result in a favorable outcome. I think the feedback system has definitely needed a little bit of an overhaul, and I think this is a good change. However, I still feel like there's a lot of confusion with what exactly the PCI is for the average player to understand. Weird things are still going to happen with the hitting engine. We're still going to get frustrated over it, but I think in terms of the information that they want to show to you after every swing, this is pretty solid. They also were very vocal about the fact that they agree that there were way too many foul balls in MLB 22. If you've played MLB 22, especially online, you know that it can be really difficult to finish off at-bats with 2 strikes. The amount of foul balls really made this game not that enjoyable a lot of the time. The PCI is going to get much smaller the further out of the zone you go. The vision attribute is also going to have an impact on that as well. And overall, according to what they said, we should be seeing a significantly lower amount of foul balls and more strikeouts across the board. And then they talked about having less cheap hits overall in the game. They completely revamped the competitive play style, so that way all of these changes are happening across the board in Diamond Dynasty, and they made it pretty clear that they wanted the good swings to matter more.
You're gonna notice a significant decrease in the amount of cheap hits that you would expect, and what I refer to as cheap hits are those really late timing flares over the first baseman or third baseman. Those are very, very frustrating, you know, especially when you get down to 2 strikes, or especially with runners in scoring position. You know, it as a player, it's not fun to have that happen to you. Can it happen? Of course, you know. The whole spectrum is there, but we narrowed the entire range for those very early, very late swings, so you'll see a lot less of those.
What Kyle is basically saying is if you're playing on competitive, good swing timing, great swing timing, perfect swing timing, good PCI placement, you're going to hit the ball harder, you're going to find more green grass. Those bloop hits that you would get from, you know, weak timing or okay contact, those are happening at a much lower clip. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct.
You know, and we've done a few tournaments here. You know, the game is, we're seeing this play out. It's also way harder. Strikeouts are up. So we're really excited to have everybody play out these tons of changes that are coming to MLB The Show 23.
That's all great to hear, of course. Everybody's going to be happy when they hear that their good swings are going to matter more and bad swings are going to get rewarded less. It's all music to the ears, but I encourage everybody to be a little bit hesitant and wait till you actually get your hands on the game before you get really excited about something like that. There's a lot of ambiguity in the hitting engine and the feedback, and they mentioned that too. So just because these changes sound good doesn't mean that it's always going to be the perfect experience whenever you get your hands on the game. So that's the major gist of the changes we have coming to MLB The Show 23. Down in the comments, I'd love to know what you think about all of these. Do you think this is going to be one of the better years for the game, or do you think it's going to be the same old, same old? Let me know, and I'll see you guys on the tech test. Peace out.